Atlanta.
Oh, okay.
Don't you have any extras?
No, these are blank. Well, you know, he's so bright. He doesn't really need the word.
That's just true.
Just the paper.
That's just true.
Here we go.
Want to share?
Craig, you got a switch here.
I can.
Yeah.
Good morning, Howard.
Sure, take mine.
I think you gotta share with Brad also. We need one over here. No, I gave. He's in the front.
I can pull mine up and then.
Morning, Rabbi.
Good morning. How are you?
Your son get off okay?
Yeah, my son made it to Israel.
No glitches?
Say again?
No glitches? He didn't have any issues traveling?
No issues. No, he went through Poland.
Ah,
Speaking of the devil.
Something is crazy about ORD, O'Hare Airport, dare I say. Doesn't seem that well, the international gates do not seem that well organized. In that you got 300 people and you got 3 people are meant to process 300 people on your flight.
Go to
And then-
Pearson in Toronto, and you think that O'Hare was heaven.
It took David an hour to get through there.
Yeah, it took us more than an hour.
and coming back
here.
is worse.
Coming here is worse.
Coming back from overseas is worse because processing is terrible.
Crazy stuff. Crazy stuff.
Let's look on the,
I can. Do we have extra? I'm going to try and create your extra. Does someone have an iPad? If someone has an iPad, I can send you the link.
I can share with Brad. Thank you.
Yeah.
You have to be more of an optimist about how many people are gonna show up.
It was like a perfect storm. Yes.
I'm not going to say, but yesterday someone told me that no, we're not going to have a minion. They didn't tell me, but he told my friend. Was put up for the challenge, Brad.
Did you ever go put it up on GoDaddy?
No. It would be great if you were able to.
Well, it wouldn't let me because I had an old account and it was shut down. And so you have to start a new account.
Okay.
with wrap information.
Okay. I'm just going to start because this is.
That's why we were here.
The fun thing is that everybody violated lots of.
Okay. So, Michtam Eliyahu, sorry, Or Yisrael, right? Today we're doing Or Yisrael, the light of Yisrael. I'm gonna share the link because I think I can share the link. I just shared it with myself, and then that will at least Howard, you can have that.
I have a iPad open.
Okay, give me a second.
I'm like the Lone Ranger here.
There we go. Okay.
That has all the detailed commentary. Rashi. So
He's unfortunately visible.
from Kelos.
I'm putting on the WhatsApp. Let me know if you can pull it out from the WhatsApp. If this is the right link. Looks good.
Yep, I can do it on my phone.
You got it on there. I got it on mine over here as well. And I haven't. Yes. Okay, here we go. Rabbi Yisrael. Quick summary of Rabbi Yisrael Salanter. Who Rabbi Yisrael Salanter was. So let's just give an example. Let's just put this in context. Just from a hierarchy perspective, about the Chavetz Chaim. The Chavetz Chaim, he died in 1933. The Chavetz Chaim was mentioned by people such as Rabbi Chanan Bassman. He was considered, the Chavetz Chaim was considered by people in his generation as one of the Tanaim, someone who lived 1,000 years before. Immensely great. Chavetz Chaim, when he brought out his Sefer, when he put out his Sefer Shmiras HaLashon, a book called Chavetz Chaim, he asked Rabbi Yisrael Salanter to write a letter of approbation. And Rabbi Yisrael Salanter refused because he didn't agree with something that he wrote. Rabbi Yisrael Salanter was an immense Torah scholar. Rabbi Yisrael Salanter, he was the founder of the Muslim movement. And what the Muslim movement was to counter in a big way, to counter the energy of the Haskalah of the Enlightenment movement, which came to discount or belittle the concept of Torah study and living as a Jew outside of your home. That was the Haskalah was, you don't need to live as a Jew outside your home. So there were a number of movements that countered that. One of the primary movements was the development of the Muslim movement. And the Muslim movement went through immense challenges, especially in the yeshiva world, in that the yeshiva world believed that we don't need to focus on personal development. That should come automatically through the study of Torah. Now, Rabbi Yisrael Salanter, so his story, his life story is he grew up in a place called Salant, and he realized that the focus of personal growth needs to be, the focus of becoming great, of greatness needs to be personal work. And he developed systems of personal work. His primary system was the concept of Beis HaMusar, of finding a place where people will come and focus on personal work, and created a system. He created that Beis HaMusar, and he went to so he grew up in Salant. He went to Vilna, and that was where he developed the Beis HaMusar and became very popular. And the Haskalah at the time, the people of the Enlightenment, they were trying to build relationships within the Russian government and trying to belittle or destroy the yeshiva movement. And they didn't know where Rabbi Yisrael Salanter stood with their regard. Was he part of their project? Was he in line with their goals, with their dreams, with their future, or was he against it? It wasn't clear because the yeshiva world were not into Rabbi Yisrael Salanter's movement, and you couldn't necessarily clearly tell the difference between who was part of the yeshiva movement, who was part of the Enlightenment. Well, you could, but Rabbi Yisrael Salanter came from a new perspective. It was the Musa concept was many times was being self-disciplined, very great, seeing yourself as a great person. Therefore, you dress elegantly. You didn't let your beard. One of the shocks when one of the great yeshivas of the pre-war was Slobodka Yeshiva. Slobodka Yeshiva was a Musa yeshiva. It was founded by Masan Tzvi Finkel, and he had a son-in-law who came to the yeshiva. Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky, or Rabbi Aaron Kotler, Rabbi Ruderman, Rabbi Heinemann, all the great, the huge American Torah sages, and many of the Israeli Torah sages, they went through pre-war. They went through Slobodka. We studied in Slobodka, right? And so I have a book that is called The Making of a Gadol. It's a banned book, one of the few books that are banned in the Torah community. Okay, it's called The Making of a Gadol. It was written by the son of Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky, where his dream was to document or to write the story of his father's life, Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky, and broke it up into a trilogy, where the first is going to be his birth till his years in yeshiva, and the next was going to be his war years, and the third was going to be his years in America, where Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky was undoubtedly one of the founders or the stabilizers of the Orthodox world, of the frum world that we had, what we had today, right? So Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky's best friend in yeshiva was Rabbi Aaron Kotler. They were both 14 and 16, geniuses at the time, and someone recruited them to take them to yeshiva. And they didn't necessarily, in the book, the book is a phenomenally factual book. My copy, right, is a photocopy of the book. I don't have the original. I don't have the original, but they didn't necessarily. He was very factual about Rabbi Aaron Kotler, and Rabbi Aaron Kotler is, or Lakewood, is a very powerful community in the Torah world, and they didn't like the way he wrote certain things about Rabbi Aaron Kotler. Speaking about Rabbi Aaron when he was a boy, 16, 17 years old. Just to imagine, we cannot imagine I cannot imagine what American Jewry would be like if Rabbi Aaron Kotler did not survive the war. Because a massive, I would say 40%, 50% of the Torah world in America is highly influenced by the Lakewood community. And the Lakewood community was founded by Rabbi Aaron Kotler, a short old man who was devoted to rebuilding Torah in America after the war. So they said things about Rabbi Aaron when he was a kid, when he was 16, 17 now. One of the stories was that Rabbi Aaron's sister, she joined the Enlightenment. She went and got an education. His older sister. Rabbi Aaron and his sister were orphans, and from a very young age. And the Alta of Slobodka, when Rabbi Aaron was in yeshiva, he was 16 years old. When he was in yeshiva, 16, 17 years old, the Alta of Slobodka, he would pre-read, or he'd have someone pre-read Rabbi Aaron's, the letters that Rabbi Aaron's sister sent to him. Because she had left the Jewish world, and the Alta of Slobodka believed that Rabbi Aaron was going to be great, and believed in the greatness that Rabbi Aaron could bring out. And what happened was that one day he actually gave it to Rabbi Reuven Grozovsky, who was the one that was in charge of, not filtering, but was checking and reading the letters beforehand. And if a letter was inappropriate or was too influential, he would not give it up. So Rabbi found out. When Rabbi found out, he left. He packed his bags and he left yeshiva, never to come back again. Okay, he left yeshiva. Someone ran and told the Alta of Slobodka. The Alta of Slobodka ran after him and went to the train station, found him at the train station, and begged him to come back to yeshiva. He begged him and begged him and begged him. Rabbi Aaron, he refused. He got onto the train, and the Alta of Slobodka got onto the train. It seems like when the train got on, it took time. And it said, Rabbi Aaron, the Alta of Slobodka begged and he started crying. He was crying and crying. And Rabbi Aaron felt bad that the Rosh Hashiva is crying, and he wanted him to stop crying. So he said, fine, I'll come back to yeshiva. And that was why Rabbi came back. So Rabbi, he survived the war and he became the great Rabbi Kotlo, and we have what we have. So some people are not excited about the history. Why do I want to tell you? Oh, I was telling you about Slobodka. So the Alt of Slobodka's son-in-law in the book, so I tell you, it's the book is this thick, right? And so his chapter, it's basically, there's like 30 pages or 40 pages of the story. And then the rest of the book is, he'll take like 2 lines and he'll write like 5 pages on every 2 lines of like notes and excursions on the book. Phenomenally documented book. And in my opinion, the greatest tragedy is that Rabbi Nosson Kamenetsky, the author of the book, he passed away about 2 years ago, and he never finished the project. I think that's like a massive loss. It's such a valuable, he documented what life, you work through the book, you have to work through it. You can't just like, it's not a novel, but you work through the book and then you start to get a picture of what pre-war of Europe and pre-war was like. And then you get to a picture of great sages and the challenges and the experiences. And it is a phenomenal resource. But anyways, the Alt of Slobodka in Yeshiva, they said, so his son-in-law came. His son-in-law came to visit the Yeshiva. So in the book, The Making of a God, old Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky, he remembered, we told over that the son-in-law of the Alt of Slobodka came to visit, and everyone was shocked because he was clean shaven. Either he was clean shaven or his beard was very, very trim. Right? And that was a shock. In the Yeshiva world in Europe, you mentally let your beard grow. Everyone let their beard grow wild. The movement of the Musa movement was your discipline. You behave, and you're not wild. It's like elegant. Elegant was one of the traits of the Musa movement. So during, getting back to our story of Rabbi Yisrael Salanta, when Rabbi Yisrael Salanta, he was in Europe, when he was in Vilna, the Haskalah were trying, the Enlightenment, they were trying to get him to join their project. They're trying to get him to join the movement. And they got him a job. They got him a job to be the head of the rabbinical seminary, which they were establishing in partnership with the Russian government. And that rabbinical seminary is going to be in their own version of the rabbinical seminary, is going to be other educational material. And we're talking about in the 1800s, right? The 1800s, where Torah Jewry was very strong. And Rabbi Yisrael Salazar realized that now he was trapped and he had to make a move. And what he did was he moved. He left in the middle of the night. He left Vilna and he went to Lithuania, and he moved to Kovna. And when he was in Kovna, he wrote letters to his students who were in Vilna, who were still keeping up their the Musar houses where they were working on themselves. Okay, so he wrote a number of letters, and we're going to try and work through as much as time permits us through letter number 2. Last time we worked through letter number 1. Hold on a second, before we look at the text. One of the parts that he spoke about in letter number 1 is our powerless. He said, the mind is extremely weak with regards to being able to control our body in order to get our body to do what the mind knows it needs to do. And the example I gave is chocolates. Dark chocolate almonds are not my forte. You put fresh cut Twizzlers in front of me, yeah, now we're talking, right? Or a vanilla ice cream with, in South Africa, we had these eclairs popped inside and a little caramel on top. Yeah, that is my, now, I know white sugar, brutal against me. Sorry, white flour and white sugar, white flour and sugar and processed sugar destroys, it's terrible, terrible. Forget that. Even coffee is bad for me. I suffer. I'm addicted to it. Like we'll call it. I wouldn't say I'm addicted to it, but it's very, very hard for me to break away. But I know these things are very unhealthy. Also know that I need regular exercise. It's fundamental for me. You put an ice cream in front of me, a fresh ice cream in front of me, my mind will say, this is very bad for you. My heart says, I want. And my body functions after the heart. That's it. Right? And we all have our own place where we're challenged. So we know what the ideal way of life is. We know the ideal way of how is it a okay. We know what the ideal us, our ideal self should look like. I'll give you the simplest example. Simple example I believe we all are guilty of is that the amount of food that we need that is healthy for our body is about half the amount that we eat on a regular basis. It's about half, right? If you put a plate in front of me, I'll eat everything that's on the plate, especially if it tastes good. Right? I don't need more than like a small piece of challah, but I'll eat a ton of challah. Whatever, we're all challenged. Even though I know what I need, and people walk through. I mean, I'm not. We're all familiar with. Many people will go to a doctor, and the doctor will say your blood sugar is high, your different blood pressure is high. You need to do these things, and if you don't do that, this is where you're heading towards. And we all have those experiences. Change us. It's very, very difficult to change us. And what he's saying is that the mind is to do is you need to be innovative. This is in letter number 1, is one needs to be innovative with regards to trying to change that. It says, if we were in business, okay, we're in business. And here we go. We'll use less for an example. Okay, less is in the catering business, right? What are the ingredients that you buy on a regular basis?
Sugar,
White sugar,
white flour.
White sugar,
White flour.
white flour. You should go
We
over
actually
this.
manufacture ingredients to people who put it into this final form.
I know, but what do you buy? White sugar and white flour.
High fructose corn syrup.
High fructose corn syrup.
Fruits,
Fruits.
fats.
Fruits, fantastic. Okay, fine. Okay, now let's say a major part of Les's business is fruits. Okay, and he's buying his fruit from a supplier, and the reason why he's buying the fruit from that supplier is because he's best friends with him, grew up with him, and he's got the business, and they're both. But so Les got a good forte with this guy. Now, what happens is Les makes his product, and then he sells it off to his to the retailers. And what the retailers are finding is they're finding bugs inside the final product, or they're finding issues inside the final product. Let's use bugs as an extreme example.
We
Okay,
don't charge extra.
you don't charge extra exactly. When I was in Morocco, when I was 18, in Morocco they have water sellers, and these guys that carry this fancy golden thing on their back, and they sell you water. So you buy a cup of water for dirt cheap, and they have a cup, and it's a tin cup or a metal cup or a copper cup, and same cup. It's the same. Forget the same cup. You're in Morocco, right? and he pours it out the water, right? And we bought water from him because you thirst. And there were things moving around inside the cup, okay, that you could see. And my uncle said to the guy, he was like, there's bugs inside the cup. He was like, I'm not charging you extra for the bugs. So imagine let's say you find, someone finds out, and he writes a letter of complaint. He says, this happens again, we're not going to be able to buy a product anymore, right? And it happens again, and God forbid they lose a client, and then it happens to a second client, it happens to a third client. Sooner or later, we're going to have a meeting at Les's headquarters. We're going to say, why are we losing the clients? I'm going to do research, and we're going to do an investigation. Well, we found that there are bugs in the source, in the fruit, God forbid. And we're going to do more research and investigation. We find that it's not happening at the actual plants, but it's actually where the fruit are sourced, and where the fruit's sourced, less is best friend, right? So now, what are you going to do? We're going to go and we're going to have to make either a very difficult phone call, or we're going to have to cut off that supplier, right? And we don't get all emotionally involved and say, oh, but he's my best friend. I have to keep my relationship up, and I have to keep buying from him, because we're in a business, right? And the goal of the business is not to have great relationships. Great relationships should enable the business to have a future. But if your great relationships are hurting, meaning I keep buying product that is not going to enable my business to thrive, sooner or later my business is going to get destroyed, right? So when we have a business that is failing, we're going to put in the effort to find where's the problem, maybe even bring in a new team, find where's the problem, go through the resource, and then make those hard decisions. And if it's uncomfortable for me, then we bring in a new team to help us make those decisions in order to make the change. So Yisrael Salanter says, we'll do that in business, but the greatest business that we have is right here. I'm my greatest business. I'm a resource. I'm a functionality. I'm an amazing creator of a product that has immense payback. My Torah study, my good deeds, my growth as a Jew, the payback from that is immense. That is what I'm here for. And yet, when I fail, and when I fail, and when I fail again, when I fail again and again and again and again, I'm not bringing in a team to help me change. So Yisrael Salanter said, we have to change the way we see ourselves. And that's where Musa comes in. What Musa is coming in is like, we have to change our attitude with regards to ourselves as a business, and treat it like a business. You have to be innovative, right? You don't just, if a business is failing, you don't just work with the same system. We'll change the system. So that was letter one, is we have to recognize how powerless we are, and then we have to be innovative. And his goal on letter number one was to get together as a group and work together as a group, meet on a consistent basis. And as you meet on a consistent basis, to discuss and learn together. Okay, that is letter number one. Letter number two. Achai v're'ai, my brothers and friends. Work as far as we can get. I think I have to go around 10. So, my brothers and friends, earlier I revealed that a person who is depressed in the pursuit of vanity suffers immensely and does not find peace in any of his ways. However, if he is given guidance towards a correct path where there is great hope through which he can quiet the depressive spirit, certainly he will not rest until it establishes a disciplined behavior which he clings steadfastly. For who is that simple one who walks in the dark and before him sparks a great light, yet he does not change his ways to come closer to it. Does anyone want to take a dab at what he was trying to say? Read it again. Brothers and friends, earlier I revealed that a person who is depressed in the pursuit of vanity suffers immensely and does not find peace in any of his ways. However, if he's given guidance towards a correct path where there is great hope through which he can quiet the depressive spirit, certainly he will not rest until he establishes a disciplined behavior which he clings steadfastly to. For who is that simple one who walks in the dark and before him sparks a great light, yet he does not change his ways to come closer to it?
Vanity is the goal.
No,
That doesn't make sense.
no, it's not saying.
Why use vanity as the example of going off the derech?
I mean, spiritual growth or some other.
No, he's saying,
goal.
This is no.
I'm depressed.
He's going for the
So
this thing. The
let's
bad.
take an extreme example of what I mentioned earlier with regards to chocolate sundaes and ice cream. Let's say a person addicted to chocolate sundaes and ice creams, right? They keep eating and keep eating and keep getting fat and fatter and fatter, and completely losing control over themselves. Are they happy people or are they depressed people? They're
Let's go
depressed.
depressed.
My brothers and friends, earlier I revealed that a person who is depressed in the pursuit of vanity, meaning keep pursuing vanity, chocolate sundaes,
Self-indulgence.
self-indulgence, correct, suffers immensely and does not find peace in any of his ways. Can't find peace. However, so now what the person does is they come in, I hate to use this example, but they see on TV an ad, they're up late at night, 400 pounds, scrolling through the depressed, scrolling through the shopping channel, and they see on TV, this is what I was, 450 pounds. And I took this, this magic program and I changed. There is a spark that is lifted. There, hey, maybe this might help me. Okay. So he says, oh, if he's, now that's a bad example because we know the shopping channel. But imagine someone comes up to them and says, I was way worse than you. I'm willing to take, in part of my work, and I changed, right? And part of my work is to work with another person, and I'm willing to take you as my project. Are you interested in me trying to help you? And I'm happy, and I'm fulfilled. And look at my life now, right? However, if he's given guidance towards a correct path, where there is great hope through which he can quiet the depressive spirit, certainly he will not rest until he establishes a disciplined behavior which he clings steadfastly. So what the person's going to do is like, okay, you're going to help me? I'm interested. I'm in. So then the person's going to say, okay, this is what you need to do. Okay. And let's say they say, what you need to do is you need to start joining Overeaters Anonymous. Overeaters Anonymous? Yeah, what is Overeaters Anonymous? Well, it's a meeting, it's a daily meeting that people get together. And what do? They talk about the challenges. That's not my problem. My problem is stopping to eat when I walk past the McDonald's, whatever it is. This is what you need to do. If you want me to help you, this is the path you need to do. So first I'm going to think about myself and like, look, whatever I've tried has not worked. Okay? So this is a path that doesn't make sense to me, right? But I'm going to listen to what he says. That's what he says. He will cling steadfastly until he establishes a disciplined behavior which he clings steadfastly. I know that my path didn't work. My self-solving didn't work. So I'm going to listen to the guidance, listen to the instruction, and I'm going to stick to those instructions. I'm not going to try and evaluate like, does this make sense or not? I'm just going to listen to what they tell me to do. For who is that simple person who walks in the dark before him sparks a great light? It does not change his ways to come closer to it. The person is very depressed and he's given an opportunity. A person walking in the dark and he finds a flashlight, not going to use that flashlight to help him find the dark. Okay. So number 2. So too, we are in the process of preparing spiritual provisions for our afterlife. We wish to distance ourselves from the lowly pit and from eternal embarrassment in the next world. Yet, we are persecuted from fake desires. We understand what fake desires mean, right? What does he mean by fake desire?
The aspirations of the common culture. That's you believing that a new car is important.
Exactly.
It is.
Careful.
The right car.
Dare I
is the
say,
key.
I have to agree so much. I mean, like I rent cars on a regular basis. So like every month I'm in a different car. And I'm so emotionally when I get an upgrade, when I get a free upgrade, oh, you want a free, I'm like excited. And like, no, you just got your Toyota Corolla. That's what they gave you. And like, I remember the last time I actually paid for a stupid upgrade. I paid like a ridiculous amount because I thought I was driving a lot. And I got a Cadillac. And at the end of the day, I returned the Cadillac. I'm like, I could have been fine in a Ford Focus. That was persecuted. We're persecuted by fake desires. I mean, I've spent ridiculous amounts of time fighting with the agents at Avis. Persecuted by fake desires because I wasn't happy with the car. We're driven towards honor. And this is something I like. For me, I'm just like highlighting certain things that are really important to me, which I'm like. He chooses to use a couple of things that points out. So like my perspective, when Rabbi Sproul Salanti uses specific examples, I'm going to put a highlight on those examples because those are key examples where he says he's the greatest psychiatrist of understanding the human neshama, of the human body, of the human soul, and understanding our rights and helping us. So he says from this world, which means that there's an underlying core that is driven towards honor, that you cannot destroy, that drive towards honor. It's impossible to. It's the most base, the ego. It's the most base drive that exists. Do you have a question, Alan?
No, I was just.
We're driven towards honor, which only removes us from this world. If we chase after honor, we become confused and weak. Dare I say, let's look at that for politicians. We become confused and weak. We become distracted from spending time on Torah study, which is the currency of our life in this world and the next. The drive for honor rips us away from being able to perform mitzvahs and guides us to sin, often which have terrible repercussions.
It's because your focus is on the attribution from others. So you're motivated by expectations of others instead of the standard which is Torah.
Yeah. Honor. So just remember that, honor. I'm going to put that into part of one of our days. Working
Does that
on
mean
honor.
that dishonor is good? That's a joke.
To where can we escape for help? To whom can we turn to for support? Only to the study of wisdom, which directs one to reconnect one's end. Only to the study of Musar, which directs one to recollect one's end. We know that we will not live forever in this lowly world. We're merely here temporarily on a business trip, so that we will reap our ultimate reward in the true place. Therefore, what good does honor achieve in this fleeting world? So he's pointing out the concept A. Number one, recognize honor is very dangerous. The pursuit of honor is extremely dangerous and destructive. And how do you fight against it is, he says, he's introducing this concept of Musar.
Yes.
Yeah.
What about pursuing respect as opposed to honor?
self-respect, respect. What do you
Not
mean?
self-respect, respect from others. Would that be honor? Same thing? Or would it be, I want to do something that will, earn the respect of other people, not for my glorification, but then I realize I've done something important. It doesn't make sense to me.
No,
Or
he-
he's doing the
he is going
mitzvah, not for the sake of the mitzvah, but because of what other people think of him doing.
Yeah, that I don't want. I'm not looking for that. I'm just saying, everybody wants to be respected by other people.
everyone's
Are respect and honor in the same category?
Yeah,
Because you're still using external affirmations from
Yeah.
other people rather than aligning yourself with the affirmation of what has come from the Torah.
I have to point out that in the end of his first letter, he actually talks about using the power of honor in order to get you to grow. Meaning, he says, join the Mussar groups, right, to such a degree that you're the specialist in Mussar. Like, allow your drive, your personal drive, allow that to push you to feel good about yourself, and that people will talk about you. You have it there? You have it. And look, I think it's the last paragraph. You want to read it for us?
Fine. Well, that's paragraph.
Does it say anything about that, or am I just dreaming?
Keep talking.
Keep talking.
It says, furthermore, when we talk over and discuss our experiences to others, that each rules in his own capacity, he will be obliged to confess through the study, and then the other will embrace him with a shining face. This one will
Oh,
encourage
it's
the
the second
excitement of his pure heart.
Okay, there we go. It's letter 2. Sorry, it's the end of this letter. Okay. 2.3. Let's get back. Despite these disciplines, now the translation is loose translation. he wrote in Hebrew, and my Hebrew is not that great, and English is not that great either. So
What language is your greatness?
Right. I think in pictures. Despite these disciplines of Mussar,
Typing's not that good.
Yeah, right.
I'm trying to see what I'm trying to say. Despite these disciplines of Mussar are a great light, we walk in the dark. Oh, despite
Typo.
these disciplines of Mussar being a great light, so having the discipline of Mussar, it is a great light. Yet despite it, we walk in the dark. So I'm giving you an option of solving your business, of saving your business. I give you an option of of getting into a healthier state, bringing down your blood pressure, being a more healthy person. I'm giving you an option of not falling down into the pits of the lowly desires, right? And that is Mussar, the study of Mussar, and it is a great light. Yet we walk in the dark, following our physical lowly lusts and desires. How is it that we do not awaken our actions to come close to the study? How do we not make it a foundation stone that we do not veer from, that we not, God forbid, leave this lofty ideal? So he says, in my opinion, what Rabbi Salanti is saying is like, I've given you a solution. I've given you a business plan of how to solve your problem. You got a major problem in your business is falling apart. And I'm giving you, I've spent time with a financial advisor and a whole business plan. We created it for you. And yet you're not able to stick to the business plan. Same thing with being. You've got you're constantly challenged, and yet you're not able to stick to the business plan, which is working in the Mussar movement, working within the study of Mussar. So Rabbi Salanti is going to say, he's over here, is that there is a problem. We have the solution, we have the person, myself, right? And we can't get ourselves into working the program of the Mussar program. So he needs to, the way he said it in the first letter, is innovatively work a plan of how to get myself working with the Mussar plan. Okay. To this end, it is vital that we establish the study as a solid discipline. We should set a fixed time each day between Mincha and Ma'ariv. Strengthen our friends to ensure that the time be used wisely and not wasted. However, if one of the group decides to leave or perhaps to even criticize this discipline, it is important that you be careful about your reactions. Hold on a second. Let's just say a couple of things. So now he's saying, number one, he's saying, like, we have the Musaf program, and the Musaf program works. Okay. The problem is that no one's sticking to the Musaf program. So what is he establishing to do? What is he suggesting we do? Which is consistency. He says put it in between something that you're going to do anyways, that you have time. So between Mincha and Ma'ariv, afternoon and evening prayers, which means either it's going to be a 15-minute study or a 10-minute study or a half-hour study, whatever that period of time is, put your Musaf, with the work of Musaf, in between part of your regular schedule. Make that as part of your regular schedule. Number two is like get people together to work together. That he already mentioned in the previous letter, the concept of working together. I mean, technically, study of Musar is a one-on-one thing. It's like, what is my challenge? What does the Torah say? How do you grow? So now he's saying the importance is working as a team, working as a group. Think about a startup. A startup with, you got four founding members of your startup. You got the guy with the great idea. You've got your the techie. You've got the person that's brilliant in marketing, and then you got the person that's coming in with the money. Okay, you got a healthy startup. Sounds good, relatively, yeah. Now, when they have a meeting, right, or when the founding member has a problem, what he's going to do is going to bring everyone together, and they're going to meet on a regular basis around the table, and they're going to try and take everyone's perspective and see, although the techie person has got a challenge and he doesn't know how to get around that challenge, using the power of the different perspectives, the different people with their different strengths, right? So he says the same thing with Musar. Musar is, I've got a problem. Now, I know what the textbook says, but I'm still challenged. So he says, bring a group together to work on together as a group, and that should help overcome that challenge. That will help strengthen. Now, the
Musar can't be an individual study. It has to be a group.
That's his suggestion. That is at least one chavrusa. But here, I haven't seen him say a chavrusa. I've seen him say it's a group, specifically looking for a group to work together, which is new to me. Because in yeshiva, sorry, hold on a second. In yeshiva, Musar study was at the end of the day, it was half an hour, and it was either by yourself or with the chavrusa, and it was so dry.
It seems to me that this is kind of like workout buddies. And in effect, you're doing something together, so there's an expectation that you're not going to fail because the group is there and would think the less of you if you fail to meet the objective.
Right. I wonder, I'd love to take I'd like to just study. I'd like to suggest the study. If we took 5 people, we had 10 people that are going to work towards a competition, let's say a weightlifting competition or a marathon competition, whatever it may be, whatever physical competition. And the way they train is, let's say it's 6 and 6. So this, or 3 and 4 and 4. So if they train as twos on the one side, let's use 6 and 6. The one side will train as partners, just 2 and 2 and 2 at their own schedules and their own thing. They just work as 2s and 2s. And the other will work as a group of 6, training constantly as a group of 6. There's no question about it, in my opinion, that the group that work together as a group of 6, they're going to be much more successful. For example.
I'm in for weightlifting.
Shot classes don't count.
Okay,
No, I hate to use this example, but I love this. Hate the German soccer team, but they're the best in the world, in my opinion. Hate them, but I love them. German soccer team will come in, the German FIFA soccer team, World Cup. They won more World Cups than any other team in the world. And the last World Cup, I have no idea when the last World Cup was played, but the last World Cup that I watched, they played Brazil in either in the semifinals or the finals, and was the biggest embarrassment in the world, where they lost 7-1, where Germany won 7-1. In a World Cup final, it's usually 1-0 or 1-1 or 0-0 for an entire 90 minutes, right? 7-1 was like the biggest embarrassment. And Brazil was, I'll tell you how big Brazil were. Brazil was sponsored by Nike. Germany was sponsored by, not Adidas. I don't think it was Adidas. I don't think it was Adidas. Or it was a different team. Or it was a different, maybe it was Schleswig. They were not sponsored. But Nike chose to put all their money on Brazil. Okay, that's what Nike chose for the World Cup. And the World Cup is the biggest game, bigger than the Super Bowl with the World Cup final, right? Now, it's unbelievable because so in the 60s, the main coach of Germany, he, if you watch them play, he and they've retained that discipline throughout their careers. The German team. There's no main name that you know in a German team. There's no individual that is the Pele or the Maradona or of Germany, of who? Messi, right? There's no main name that you can tell of on the German team. Does not exist. In fact, their discipline is that if you're running towards the goal and you have a 60% chance, and if you pass it to a team, he has an 80% chance, you're going to pass it to them, you're not going to. And if you don't, you're going to be disciplined afterwards, and you most likely will lose that opportunity of playing in another team. That's the way they play as a team. On a concept that there's no one person that's more important, no one person that's bigger, and their power as a team is phenomenally powerful, and that's why Germany are the best in the world, in my opinion. But this is that it's on that same concept of like when you work together, and when you work together as a team, you develop new insightful powers that enable you to play the best that you can. Okay, so I'm back. I'm still just at the end of 2.3. However, if one of the group decides to leave, or perhaps so you got a group of guys who are starting with on a regular basis, and so one guy says, this is not working. It's such a waste of time, or he starts to criticize, so he decides to leave. Now, what the problem is, you got 4 guys that are learning, they're working on themselves, and one guy says, this is such a useless waste of time. Okay, you're gonna have 3 guys. Now, what he's saying is like, we don't want to lose that 4th guy. There's 2 options that you can do. You can either say, he doesn't really want to work on himself, make fun of him, he's really going to lose. Or you're going to realize, hey, we're much stronger when we have him in our group. So how do we bring him back? That's what he says. When one of the group to leave, or perhaps to even criticizes this, it is important that you be careful about your reaction. So no, someone leave because it doesn't make sense. Discipline doesn't make sense. And I know someone's going to leave. He's going to start criticizing it. He's going to go out there and he's going to fall. And how are you going to treat him? You're going to say, told you so, or are you going to try and help him endure his failure? You should persuade him with soft ideas, each according to the capacity, and through this way, the Musa will be established in a faithful way. Always embrace him when a goes out and able to get him to come back, we don't say, hope you learned your lesson, embrace him in a way that he'll stay, this wise husband, you'll recognize that there are two parts to it, two heads. Shnei Rashim, two heads. The one is the enthusiasm of the soul through the virtue of these lofty ideas. With excitement, with correct understanding, with a broad picture, one begins to expand each concept of practical ideas to such a degree that the heart gets excited, be it a little or a lot. The heart will then influence the body to put into practice each good action, whether it be with will or through force. Did he talk about the mind? Anyone notice the word the mind over here? No, he's talking about the heart. So he said, through Musar, what you're going to do is you're going to get excited. Essentially, the heart gets excited, be it a little or a lot. And the heart will influence the body to put into practice each good action, whether it be a little or with will or through force. So it's basically coming back to my ice cream example, okay? My mind says, ice cream is not good for me. My heart says, I want. And my body goes and functions according to the heart. So what he's saying is like, what you need to do is get into the Musa program. Getting into the Musa program is going to have, number one, he says, the two parts. Number one, the Musa program is going to enable a person to stimulate inspiration in the heart. Okay, and that doesn't necessarily make sense. But I'll give you a loose example with regards to the ice cream. I start, sorry, my wife, with the ice cream example, if we were all part of the new club and we were wearing this cool shirt and we're part of this club and our club, we're the anti-ice cream people. We don't do ice cream. Now, when the ice cream comes up over here and shows up and is served for me, I'm going to say no to the ice cream, not because the ice cream is bad for me and I know that the ice cream is bad for me, but because I'm part of this cool club, right? Now, it doesn't make sense, right? But that's the brilliance of Musar, is that what I'm doing is I'm affecting the heart. So what the heart is saying, I want ice cream. I'd also like this club that I'm part of. And I'd rather the club than the ice cream right now. Does that make sense? The heart will then influence the body to put into practice each good action, whether it be with will or through force. Now, the second is the other part. So the Musa is helping us function on both ends. So number one is through the heart. And I think the reason why he's using both is because that is not a long-term solution. The second is through the wisdom of the world to look towards the future and see the outcomes, to be vigilant before the days of evil come, to prepare ideas and strategies, how to manage oneself and others, to simplify the concept and make the challenge easier until such a time that fear overcomes the desire. So let's just pause over there and read it again. So the second is through the wisdom of the world to look towards the future and see the outcome. So we're going to sit down and we're going to work on the Musa. We're going to sit in the Musa group. We sit as a group and we're going to start studying. We're going to say, where do I want to go to, right? Because we don't take time on a regular basis. We don't take time to like think about our future. We're just busy. We're very, very busy. We're on a treadmill, and the treadmill doesn't slow down. It just keeps going faster and faster, and those bills keep piling up, and we have no idea. So what the advantage of the Musa group is, we're going to join the Musa group, and we're going to take time, and we're going to start thinking about where is my goal? Where's my long-term goal? Where's my financial plan? Or where do I want to end up over here? Okay. To be vigilant before the days of evil come, to prepare ideas and strategies, how to manage myself and others. So what I want to create is ideas and strategies, how to manage myself and others. So for example, let's say a person wants a stable financial future and sit with a financial planner, that's where I want to go. Okay, my goal is over there. I know in order to get to that financial future, financial planning of like financial stability, I'm going to have to create disciplines over here. But I really want to take a vacation to Puerto Vallarta, wherever it is, Hawaii. The discipline is going to say, I'm going to have to come up with ideas of utilizing that end goal in order to ensure that I'm on that path towards that direction.
What does he mean by days of evil?
Days of evil are meaning that me coming to the end of my life and looking backwards, that I've achieved nothing. To simplify the concept and make the challenge easier until such a time that fear overcomes the desire. So basically what he's saying is like, fear, meaning fear overcomes the desire is, let's use a financial planning example, is if I keep buying Starbucks coffees on a daily basis, right, I will not achieve my financial goal. Okay, but I have a desire. My desire is I want my hit. I want my caffeine hit. The ideal is from Starbucks. Starbucks charges $7 a day, whatever, work that out. Whatever that may be. So the fear is that Yira is recognize where my goal is. I want to get there. And in order to get there, I'm going to have to overcome the desire that I have right now. To be vigilant, to simplify the concept and make the challenge easier until such a time that fear overcomes the desire. So he says, what we need to do is we need to simplify the concept, make the challenge easier. So now I need my coffee hit. Now I need my caffeine hit, and I know that I'm going to want Starbucks. So I need to come up with ideas. How am I going to avoid my Starbucks? How am I going to, perhaps I only use cash. I decided I cut up my food. Easiest one day, Ramsey, they cut up the credit cards, right? They cut up the credit cards, said you stop spending on credit. Just cut it up. You don't have a credit card anymore. So you're forced to find a new way. It's an innovative way of this is the goal of life. This is the goal of life. So what is the goal of life? To overcome the challenge, the desire through mental discipline achieved through Musar and wisdom. To this end, we have a topic about which we focus on during our study and make a habit of the study of Musar and wisdom. The subject will bring the hearts close to the study of Musar, and with Musar, it will become established, and with patience will be strengthened, and with wisdom will bloom and blossom. So that's his foundation of goal. This is like, just like you have a financial plan with regards to when it starts out one's career, you want to have a financial plan of where you want to end up when you're 65 years old. So too, as a human being, you want to have a spiritual plan of where you want to end up. When we come to the end of our time, end of our life, I want to have be somewhere within that place. And Musar is that key, which is it's a creative plan that enables us to work in that way.
All your examples so far have been secular, ice cream, for all that kind of stuff. How do you apply Musar to Torah and Mishnah and all that kind of stuff? Or is Mishnah, is Musar a course for living your life as opposed to becoming a scholar?
We have not spoken about being a scholar at all.
Right.
So what I would just say is that of what that person should look like. Right? Torah tells us you should never get angry. You should honor your parents. You should eat kosher. There's like a human being, an ideal human being that the Torah guides us who we should look like at the end of our life. It's kind of like that financial, what that stability will be, what that point. And then the Musar is going to be this, that when we get there, that's what we are. And the challenge is the desire. And the Musar is this innovative thought process to overcome the desire.
Are the programs the same for men and women? Because I think Michael and a few other guys we used to go to Allie's Musar class.
Yeah.
And I would walk out every day saying, she's a great teacher, but I don't want to hear how this woman's Bubby used to make brownies. You know, I mean, it was a little too pooky and all this kind. So I, daughter-in-law or not, I just dropped out. You know, there were a few guys, and at the end, I don't know how many guys were still there. It was different. I could not see 12 guys sitting around and following those 48 ways.
Oh, you doing 48 ways? So you did 48 ways and you didn't feel
She did
connected.
a great job, but I bounced off of it.
So, yeah. Okay. I mean, I don't know. I don't have a good answer for you. I'll tell you one thing. I don't understand how my wife works. I honestly have no clue how women. I do not understand. Should stop the recording here. Oh no, we're just gonna stop recording. Where's our recording? I don't know how to stop this recording, but undoubtedly, I do not understand how the female